This week, the United States is experiencing unstoppable weather, from the intensified Atlantic hurricane through to rain coastal waves to intense connective outbreak to inland areas and unusual late summer atmospheric river poisoned to flood in the Pacific Ocean coast. The variety of northern hurricane force winds to the sea, torrential winds, inland flash floods, and destructive winds gas is testing the resilience of emergency service and highlighting now the definite parts of the country must prepare to the very definite threat at the same time. In the Atlantic, tropical storm Erin was quickly developed into LEM track system and the forecast to become first hurricane on the season this weekend in the same moved west-north across the one way. Forecasts say it could rapidly intensify, complicating planning for the island communities to the coastal area along the West Atlantic and Bermuda when the center does not reach in the East Coast. Broad waves and the threat to reach current could cause dangerous south to the coastal flooding in some areas on the East Coast. Official and meteorological services are urged residents to select to closely monitor update. Washington state is experiencing one of the most severe storms in recent years, which lasted several days, destroyed coastal towns, caused road to overflow, and covered cascades with a heavy snow, prone to hailstone avalanches. Authorities confirmed at least 9 deaths related to the storm, dozens of injuries, and thousands of displaced people in western and eastern Washington state. In the key of Peace Country, overlapping streams and the south suburbs, living homes uninhabitable. I lived 40 years and never seen like this, said Howard Kim, the related teacher from Uber. I felt like nature was a redrawing map. Emergency service conducted more than 300 water rescue, many of whom cars abandoned to flooded highways. The Puget Sound region experiencing hurricane force wind that uprooted century-old trees and damaged power lines. More than 315,000 customers were without power, and a peak this storm and outdoor continued several days in rural communities. Further service was suspended, isolated. A powerful hailstorm swept across parts of the central United States late Tuesday, leaving behind a trail of destruction that circled from Oklahoma to Kansas. The storm filled the fast-moving cold front cauldron with the warm, humid air from the Gulf of Mexico. Powdered hailstorms as large as a baseball as wind gusts exceeded 100 km/h. Meteorologists described the event as one of the most intense of the season. This was a textbook supercell outbreak, said Dr. Laura Jenkins from the National Weather Service. The size and density of the hailstorm caused significant structure damage and of reinforced rooftops. Residents in several towns reported shattered car windows, stripped trees, and power outage that left thousands in the darkness overnight. In Norman, Oklahoma, emergency crew responded to dozens of calls as the hail pressed through the skylights and flooded streets. It sounded like someone was throwing rocks by the house of hail an hour, said local resident Jason Miller. Air travel was also disrupted. Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport reported more than 200 flights delays. On Wednesday, the Alaska coast abridged the more rain and wind after destruction storm destroyed two small inglorious villages, killing at least one person and leaving more than 1,400 people homeless. Over the weekend, the reminder of a time when Halong swallowed into the remote communities of Yulin-Kulush Delta in the southwestern parts of the state, bringing strong winds, rain, and record storm surge that washed away some homes. The Coast Guard rescued dozens of people from their homes after the buildings were washed out to sea. At least one person died died and 2 are missing. The communities in Kipnak, with a population of 715, and Kiwigor, the population of 318, were hardest hit with every home damaged by the storm. The situation of Kinpak is catastrophic. Let's not attack cross. The Mark Robert, left the State Emergency Operations Center, said during the press conference on Tuesday, "We are doing everything we can to continue to support this community, but the situation is bad, as you can imagine." State official acknowledged the people are suffering and has said they are working as quickly as can. "We need to provide people with a safe place where they can warm up, eat and get help. We are working quickly to this, but it takes time." Volunteers worked through the night, placing standards around the area when the water ceased slipping through. This system was built in the centuries to come, warned flood manager Diego Cho, and the river is reminding us for the earth. In the Celes and Pacho valleys, farmers waded through the roads and flooded strawberries and lettuce, dealing the direct blow in the state winter produce. Further east, heavy wet snow blanket in this side. Sierra Nevada went turning into rain, wetting down roofs and triggering avalanches to meltwater, thunder it in the catchment bases below. Chris in a truck treated Salt Lake through cleared water pipes, knowing the clogged pipe cloud load in the area and much in a broken dam. Hospital treated hypothermia, burns in carbon monoxide poisoned from the user generators indoors, shelters filled with families with pets and garage bands to be launching community organization 100 up traps chanting to hot metals. Official reappeared to all refrain, turn back, don't draw, and the drivers tested their lack in a blanket rule. Forecasters said that this situation, warm seas, saturated soil and suggestive storm turned original rain into crisis. When the skies finally clear, California will face a long day ahead, draining heats, inspiring dams and bridge, testing wells and inspecting system and detailing crops losers. The alleged task will remain strangling the state with its likely mine water and a camp faster falls 100 in the state longer with the wall recorded on the maps. Washington is assessing the damage after the parent Pacific storm flooding in low-lying area and dumping heavy snow on the Cascade, flooded landslides and hailstorm widespread power outage. Along the Cherokee and Snohomish River, gullied exceeded flooded stage overnight, flooded farms and isolated rural communities. The water rose like 10 train, said Alicia turned in a mountain barrel. They moved lay livestock to chain parking to them, water reached to barn door. In Seattle, Tacoma, gust of winds broken branches to poles, hitting light rail service and canceling dozens of flights, where cleanup crews speed up across the major roads. For cancellation spread throughout the Puget Sound and the coastal town of Joaquin to Long Beach, struggled to deal the waves spurtled all the temporary embankments. High in the mountains, snowglades and Devon Pass become bottlenecks. Overturns track, avalanches buries and change require for travel along statements. Considered it a clear shoe may occur without warning. Warning, WS. Spokesman Caleb Morita. Israeli residents to SeaTac Airport cancelled nearly 200 flights. In the east, the Yakima Valley suffered damage to orange, to apple and growers, incurred millions of dollars in losers. In the Spokane country, unsteppable slopes collapsed onto roads and railways, complicating rail transportation, which is vital to Northwest economy. Hospitals in Spokane and Tacoma reported sharp increase in the number of patients hospitalized due to the storm. Environmental issues are becoming increasingly relevant. Rising water level destroyed it, salmon spawning ground and storm surge damage vulnerable coastal wetland. The resilient salmon population is better tested more and more each year. Meteorology is linking the storm and intense atmospheric flow of thunder, referring of the Pineapple Express with the delivery subtropical moisture directly to Northwest, followed by the warm water on Pacific Ocean. Such a system are becoming more frequent and intense. Governor Jay Inslee declared a state of emergency throughout the state. Mobilizing International Guard are promising assistance and families of farmers. However, recovery will take much longer and simply restoring power and clearing landslides. For many Washington residents, this storm highlighting the harsh truth. The Pacific Northwest, along with estimated terrain and now forcing storms of complicated difference magnitude. Insurance experts estimated the damage could reach hundreds of millions of dollars, making it one of the most expensive hail events in recent Texas history. Fire department across the region responded more than 600 emergency calls, including house fires, sparks, and lightning strikes. In Austin, emergency shelters were opening to those displaced by the roof collapse and the flooding caused by the blocked drains. Meteorologists linking the storm and a strong cold front cauldron with the warm, humid Gulf air and a pattern increasingly common during spring and autumn. Dr. Mitchell Rainfall, a senior climatologist, warning, Texas has always seen severe storms, but what I learned now they grow in intensity. We're seeing longer hailstones and more frequent supercell formations. Governor Greg Abbott declared a state of emergency in several countries and deployed the National Guard in case the debris accelerate. In a statement, he urged residents to remain vigilant as further thunderstorms are forecast in the coming days. As the light broke, since a destruction emerged, shattered skylines, stripped trees, and vehicles blanched in ice. Yet among devastation, stories and community resilience stood out. Volunteers from neighboring towns read these tools, drops and fruit. Texas are through, said firefighters Ryan Galber in the Fourth War. We will build together stronger than before. Governor Mike Dunleavy declared a statewide disaster, mobilizing the Alaska National Guard to deliver emergency aid supply to isolated communities. Rescue operations have been hindered the washed-out roads to continuing highways. This storm was revealing the map of Alaska west coast, an emergency official said. Scientists warn that the warming official temperatures are making such extreme storm more likely in the northern latitudes. This wasn't just coastal front, the climatologist Dr. Laura Henning. There was a collision of Pacific Typhoon Air Court's climate driver superstorm. Residents now facing during the task on rebuilding and temperatures begin to drop toward freezing. Many homes were without heat and the local schools and saving temperature shelters. Volunteers and an emergency crew continue clearing debris while the relief organization work to restore clean water and electricity. For many, Alaska's and disaster feel like a touring port. We had the storm before. California is facing one of the most serious flood emergencies. It's decades of present weather from the brought several days of heavy rain. Wind and storm in the mountains flood cities and rural valleys. Official ANO confirmed multiple fatalities and hundreds rescued, with thousands have been forced to their homes in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Sacramento, and Central Valley. Rivers including the Sacramento and San John had overflowed their banks, tested dams for the already strengthened the years and drought of the past storms. Water is everywhere, said Daniel Morales in the residence of Merced. We lived here at 20 years and never seen a rise so fast. Residents along the North California coast are making at least minutes operation on Hurricane Helene Stranger. It's not southwestern United States. The storm, now a Category 3 hurricane, continues to grand stretch with a sustained winds of 120 km/h. Forecasts are warning of potentially devastating consequences as Helene moves within the few centimeters of the region. The National Hurricane Center was updated in devastation, warning that Helene could stretch further before the making rainfall. The storm is expected to bring dangerous winds, heavy rain, and significant storm surge that could lead to widespread flooding, especially in low-lying areas in the coast. Authorities have issued a hurricane warning for the large parts of the North California coast, urged residents to evacuate to take all necessary precautions. Evacuation orders have already been issued at residents in the outer coast, including popular tourist destinations such as Kiddens Island, Accolade Island. Evacuation shelters have been stopped in the entire of island, and local authorities are working with the Red Crescent. All organizations provide safe housing to evacuate. Ferry service between the island have been suspended, and the highway traffic were increasing dramatically, over residents rushing to move island before the conditions deteriorate. North Carolina governor has declared a state of emergency, mobilizing National Guard and other emergency personnel to help with the preparations and a potential recovery. This is a larger and dangerous storm, Cooper asked during press conference. Airports reported diversions and cancellation on the runways were lifted in debris. Ferry service where sea levels rose and ports were damaged. Utility crews rushed to restore power, and search and rescue teams cleared blocked highways. Scientists and local leaders said they even highlight changing climate dramatic in Alaska. Rising air and ocean temperature, Eli sulfur and permafrost through the cloud intensified storm, increasing a runoff into glacier basin and water coastal definis, making floods and wind disaster more frequent and destructive. Experts are calling the long-term investments, permanent protection of rivers, approved evacuation routes, and improving monitoring to global lakes. When the wind died down, in the urgent task was recovery, pumping water in flooded yards, repairing power lines, installing bridges, and acing the damaged small businesses that had separated the loss of tourists and transportation. For many communities, the southern storm was a stark reminder of the climate change in Alaska is already attending the rhythm of life, and that more powerful and long-term resilience measure will be needed to protect homes, infrastructure, and livelihood. Torrential rain and severe thunderstorm battered much of Texas, caused widespread flooding, property damage, and mass evacuation in several countries. The multi-day weather event caused a slow-moving low-pressure system, causing chaos in the such as Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, and parts of East Texas. Horace County received more than 300 mm of rainfall in 36 hours, causing bayou, drainage canals, and flood control reservoirs to overflow. The Buffalo Beyond and the Brace Bayou overflowed flood residential area to force an emergency service to conduct more than 500 rescue operations in Greater Houston area. Governor Greg Abbott declared a state of emergency in more than 13 countries, mobilizing Texas National Guard and activating Emergency Operations Center. This is not just heavy rain, Abbott said in a new conference. This is live theater, including that require immediate action. In Austin, flash floods turned roads into rivers, blocking vehicles and forcing dozens of water rescue. Several low-lying crossings were washed away, and the schools in Travis County were closed to safety reasons. Meanwhile, in Dallas, floods warned heavy rain overflowing to drained, closing major interstate highway, including section in I-35 and I-20. The National Weather Service issued a flood warning that most of central southwestern Texas, northern saturated soil, and additional rainfall could prolong to the crisis. Experts from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration warned that the climate trends to contributing for more frequent and intense rainfall for the southern United States. East of mountains, heavy rain pounding Speckle Country, where water-loaded sloped slid into country roads and basements were flooded in minutes. Hospitals reported a sharp increase in storm-related injury, including forced carbonate moxidons, poisoning in indoor-generating, and hypothermia among the motorists stranded on the roads. Utility crews restored service in neighborhoods at the time, but the official warning to raking in soil that trees could continue to fall even after sky cleared. Environmentalists think the washed-out travel the bus could destroy early establishment settlements, spawning grounds, undetermined to future recovery. Apple to hope growth in the Yakima Valley assessment standard water to end the damage. With the small related travel inventory, losers are here to holidays. Forecasters linking to even a powerful atmospheric river feeding to deep coastal depressions, ideal conditions to intense, locally exhaled rainfall, with the possibility another front-loading emergency official urged residents to avoid flooded roads, photograph damage, and increasing climate to keep emergency kit ready. As the immediate threat subside, Washington inching to slow parks, reappearing leaves, subsiding slopes, and strangling state in the first line in the Pacific storm track. A powerful storm system, the remnant of Typhoon Holong, caused catastrophic destruction in the western Alaska, leaving communities cut off from the world. Home destroyed and the coastline reported the hurricane force wind and a high wave. The rare event, which occurred over the weekend, was described by officials as the most powerful September storm in Alaska history. The National Weather Service reported with a gust exceeding 145 km/h, combined with an unprecedented storm surge that flooded coastal town from Nome to Hobart Bay. Entire roads disrupted under seawater, and hundreds of residents were forced to evacuate. The frozen tides flood their home. "We have never seen anything like this," said Jacob N., mayor of Hoboken, where dozens of homes were swept their foundation. "The ocean just carried out. It swallowed everything." Skyline images show that large selection of Alaska west coast have been completely transformed. Beaches have been ordered, and entire villages have been temporarily cut off. Thousands of people were left without power, and communication lines were disrupted in remote areas for the complication rescue operation. California is recovered after several days of heavy rain, with atmospheric front brought tropical moisture from the coast to Sierra. Low-lying area from San Diego to the Bay Area wake up knee-deep in water with the car stuck in intensification. Inland, the Central Valley turned into the mosaic and makeshift lakes like creeks split in fields and towns. In Los Angeles, storm drains overflowing an unprecedented field with water in minutes. We watched as the crabs disappeared when the sidewalks in the street, said Marisol Vega on the Pecan Union. In the not alone US 101, landslides counter-rate moved to the borders across the lines and sector of I-5 were predictably closed for the fast water rescue operations and debris removal. While the coast high waves and strong stuff washed over seawalls from the Pacific to Santa Barbara, a routing rift already weakened the windowed storm. The Sacramento San John Delta faced another danger. Overflowed rivers put pressure out levels. This week, Alaska was hit by a rare fire wind and broad hurricane-force winds, heavy rain, and dramatic gales breakup resulted in billions of dollars of meltwater rising down the rivers in the state capital, Juneau. The system caused significant damage from the inside passage on the south-central communities, forcing people to evacuate, halting ferry service, and leaving thousands without power. In Juneau, a sudden release of water from Suicide Basin above the Mid-Col Glacier caused the record rise in the river level significantly exceeded previous night. City officials, with the support of federal agencies, installed the miles of temporary borders, including Hesky-type earthworks and southern walls, with the officials said prevented much more damage in the hundreds of property through road, riverbanks, and the small bridge were ordered to damaged by debris. Residents were temporarily evacuated, with the emergency service monitoring the rapidly changing water levels. Elsewhere, hurricane-force wind uprooted trees, tore off roofs, and damaged power lines in the Anchorage and in neighboring areas. Alaska glacier breach in January, southern local hazards. In January, a glacier lake outburst from the medical drainage system caused debris to flow down the river, overflowing temporarily proactive structures to flooding low-lying yards and at least a small road bridge. Rapid melting in sudden outflows from the glacier blocked basins and the increasing problem in the warming Alaska. Warming summer's area should melt. In the increasing precipitation can fill ice-blocked lakes more quickly, increasing the livelihood of flash floods that occur without warming. City service and volunteers rushed into reinforced riverbanks and removed debris, while the residents of the most affected area were temporarily evacuated until authorities gave the all clear. The incident highlighted the need to regular monitoring the glacier basins to improve public warning system in the area. There were no other risk in the ice jams. Pacific Northwest unusual atmospheric river in August. The rare atmospheric river in August is forecast to bring prolonged wet weather to western Washington, Oregon, and southwestern British Columbia. Forecast agencies have warned to rainfall among the could equal the week what the precipitation in some mountains would shed in a matter of hours.
It's like a snowstorm.
Volunteers walked through the night, placing standards around the area when the water ceased slipping through. This system was built in the centuries to come, warned flood manager Diego Cho, and the river is reminding us for the earth. In the Salas and Pacho valleys, farmers waded through the roads and flooded strawberries and lettuce, dealing the direct blow in the state winter produce. Further east, heavy wet snow blanket in this side, Sierra Nevada went turned into rain, wetting out roofs and triggering avalanches to meltwater, thunder it in a catchment bases below. Chris in a truck with Salt Lake through cleared water pipes, knowing the clogged pipe cloud flood in the area and imagine a broken dam. Hospitals treated hypothermia, burns and carbon monoxide poisoned from the user generators indoors, shelters filled with families with pets and garage bands to be launching community organization 100 up traps chanting to hot metals. Official reappeared to all refrain, turn back, don't draw, and the drivers tested their luck in blanket rule. Forecasters said that this situation, warm seas, saturated soil and suggestive storm turned original rain into crisis. When the skies finally clear, California will face a long day ahead, draining heats, inspiring dams and bridge, testing wells and inspecting system and detailing crops losers. The alleged task will remain strangely in the state where the likely mine water and a composter falls 100 in the state longer where the wall recorded on the maps. Western Alaska is reeling after the remains of Typhoon Helen came through the coastal line, unleashed in record-breaking winds, massive waves, and catastrophic flooding. Entire communities have been left under current disabled. The meteorologists are calling the most violent storm to strike Alaska in decades. The storm, which transformed from the typical typhoon into the powerful extratropical cyclone, slammed it into the Bering Sea coast with the sustained winds up to 116 km/h, and the storm surged in the paused sea waters more than 10 feet island. Towns including Name, Golovin, Hopper Bay, and Shattered Lake suffered the worst of the devastation. A witness described a terrified scenes of entire section of shoreline, watershed homes flooded away and finished boats that smashed to pieces. I feel like the end of the world, said Martina Neural, residents of Golovin. Officials say hundreds of homes have been damaged or destroyed. One of Alaska's largest western statements flooded swept through the historic downtown, leaving vehicles submerged and power lines thrown apart. The National Weather Service confirmed that water levels were the highest ever recorded since 1968. Florida experienced a devastating coastal storm that hit the coast with the violent winds, torrential rain, live theater and storm surge with the Big Bend, Tampa Bay, and the Sun Coast. In low-lying areas, seaways bridges alert the flooded homes. Inland, torrential winds turned streets into fast-flowing channels, overwhelmed drainage system and washing cars and flooded interactions. Emergency service continued hundreds of rescue operations from St. Petersburg to Dealkir. Gusts of winds broke power poles to separate debris across Darkness Avenue. The water rose clouds at fast-moving tide, said Angela Ruiz at San Tampa. 1 minute it was ankle deep, in the next it was a cut. Airports restricted operations, Interstate Highway I-75 and I-95 were closed, and Barry Island were temporarily cut off, bridges were changed for damage. Along the natural coast, still water flooded into marshlands and sanctuaries, threatening Oslo farms, circus and staff by Groves reported standing water that could remain for several days.